Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Burning Road Podcast. I'm Jake Scarborough, and I'm joined by my co-host Fidel Fabian and Connor Passman, and our newest co-host to the edition, Tyler McIntosh. And there goes my camera doing the thing. Let's go. It's not a BRP recording until we get that in. But to kick things off here, we've obviously got to go over the Vegas weekend for NASCAR. Starting off with the Truck Series, Fabian, your go on that.
Yeah, watch the truck race from start to finish. It had really good racing until Kyle Busch pulled a 5 second lead out of his ass and just stole away with it. But other than that, it was a great race. Some troubling issues for pit crews where they got to the track by like the end of stage one. So multiple drivers had different pit crews throughout the race. Overall, I give it like a solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah, so unlike Fidel, I did not watch a singular part of this race. The only thing I really saw was the Christian Eckes save, which was beautiful. That's my guy right there. But yeah, Kyle Busch winning another truck race, typical. And yeah, that's really it.
Yeah, I'm kind of like the same thing with Connor and Fidel. Like, because we all watched the race together. It was rough at the start. I would say there was a lot more pack racing than I figured there would be personally. But the save by Christian Eckes, I thought that truck was gone. I think we were all screaming watching it because they were three wide, and then Christian just loses it. But great driving there. Obviously, can't Kyle Busch is Kyle Busch. He's going to do what he does in the Truck Series at Vegas. So other than that, though, I think some surprisingly good runs from some of the other teams. Thor Sport wasn't really there, but other than that, it was a good race until Kyle Busch decided to do Kyle Busch things.
I mean, fair enough. Yeah. Oh, Jesus. There it goes again. I cannot have a day. But no, yeah. Kyle Busch, I think everyone knew when he was doing this weekend, it was like, oh, yeah, he's going to do the sweep. Obviously, that didn't follow
No.
through. But Kyle Busch in the trucks at Vegas is just OP. There's no stopping it. You mentioned the Eka save. That was insane. Fabian mentioned the whole pit crew situation. That was also just odd. That was something we'll probably never see again. And if we do, then something's going on. But I mean, yeah, the race as a whole, it was just if you're paying attention to what was going on in the midfield, it was entertaining. But in terms of what's going on for the lead, Kyle was gone. There's no stopping him. You had Nick Sanchez up there for a bit fighting him, but once everyone just started getting their adjustments in, that was just Kyle's race to lose at that point, and well, that
Game over.
obviously didn't happen.
Mm-mm.
But midi race, which was an oddball of sorts. So let's talk about that one.
Yeah, Xfinity out Las Vegas. I didn't watch much of the race, but from what I could see, I thought it was going to be Chandler Smith's day. It looked really well for him until the final two laps, where Austin Hill just slowly crept up to him, passed him for the lead, and took the race win away.
Yeah, so I had work this weekend, so this is another race that I unfortunately had to miss. But another one of my favorite drivers, Chandler Smith. He had a great race, fast car, and then like Fidel said, Austin Hill just took it from him. But yeah, other than that, it was a good race. It was fun.
I think it was cool for me because I think in qualifying, both the colored cars, the 16 and the 10, had some weird left rear tire rub in qualifying, but they were both quick. And I mean, Kyle had to go to the back anyways, but I know he mentioned that his car wasn't that good. So kind of seeing the differences in the 16 and the 10, Kyle tried to do whatever he could, and I thought at first he was going to be able to turn it around and as he did in the truck race, do Kyle Busch things, but just kind of never came to fruition. Chandler Smith dominated that race. I thought with 20 to go, I started turning the TV off because I thought he had it. I was like, well, at this point, he's got it. But whatever happened to him there, man, I feel so bad. But Austin Hill, insanely smooth and just consistent. And it's every week he manages to be in the top five. So it was a good race. I hate that it ended that way, but Austin Hill with another dub. So RCR gets another dub. I'm not too upset with that.
Yeah, and as you guys mentioned, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Race was one lap too long. I wanted to see Chandler Smith get that, but I feel like the whole thing that we got to see out of that race was obviously Kyle Busch in the 10. We all were wondering how that was gonna go because the whole situation last year and past 2 years, at least with Colleague, was what's wrong with that 10 car? Why does it not perform like the 11? Because Haley was able to win in it. You have Allmendinger who's able to win in it. Jeb won that one race in the 10 that was rain shortened. Connor, I see you staring off because you know what I'm about to say. I just
Go
don't
ahead.
think that 10 car is capable of winning, and I don't know if it's just their dev car or what. But you saw Kyle have pace in it. We've seen the 10 car have pace before, but it's never had race winning pace. And I'm unsure on if that car does have that pace. And even putting an all-star driver like Kyle Busch, one of the best in Xfinity Series history, one of the best in NASCAR right now, definitely a top 5 in NASCAR history, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell. But when it comes to just the Xfinity race as a whole at Vegas, it was good. There was something going on constantly. But the pain that you must have if you're a Chandler Smith fan, just seeing that wash away. One lap too long. But
My heart.
but aside from that, the Cup race the following day, that was oof.
Oof.
Fabian, go ahead.
Yeah, it was just Hendrick dominance all around. Byron leading like 177 laps with Larson right behind him all the time. Bowman running around the top 10. And Elliott wasn't there. And not mean like he was in the back or anything. He just was at the track. He wasn't even with the team. He was in the hospital because he had a injury while snowboarding. Broke his tibia, I think. And now we don't know how long he'll be out until he comes back. Josh Berry was in the 9, but obviously he's not very familiar with the next gen car and ran around 25th. So for the plan for that 9 team is just have Josh Berry run for the ovals and have Jordan Taylor for Coda. But for the race itself, it was very uneventful. Like compared to last season, this season's Las Vegas, well, for the first race of Las Vegas was very uneventful. So for the last 6 laps of Almirola spinning out and Byron taking the lead and stealing the win.
Well, this was the race I did get to watch this weekend, and I'm glad I did because I am a William Byron fan. Nobody else probably enjoyed themselves, but yeah, it was a very, very uneventful race. I think the only real accident besides the last one was Joey Logano spinning through the grass. But yeah, Byron dominated, and unfortunately, his pit crew did their usual tricks and got him out third, I think, on one of the cautions. And he ran behind Larson, started catching him a little bit before the caution. Then the caution came out, pitted, pit crew made up for themselves. Byron just took off on the restart, and that was it.
And I think one of my bigger stories for Vegas, as far as what I was watching, was I think this is the first race that we've really seen Kyle Busch struggle in the RCR equipment. I mean, struggling for him was 14th this week, but I think we're going to see a lot more of a learning curve for the 8. I mean, obviously, Auto Club, the reason why they won, other than the fact that he's Kyle Busch, is because Tyler Reddick had a great car there last year. In my opinion, could have won the race, but I think we kind of saw them fall back on that. But I think we're going to start to see them have to learn to put some things together there at RCR. I mean, other than Hendrick and Chastain, Suarez started to come on late, but there wasn't a whole lot of Chevy dominance. I mean, there wasn't really a window with William Byron winning everything. So I think another story for me was Josh Berry. You guys mentioned that he was in the car. I think he ended up going a couple laps down and then didn't really have the opportunity to move back up. But I think for somebody that's going to have to learn, because he's going to be doing all the ovals for Chase, it's going to be cool to see him learn in the next gen car and kind of see where his potential in the future goes. I hate it for Chase. I think this is going to be his first real struggle as far as he's got to come back, and this is going to be his first real thing he's got to triumph. Other than winning his championship. But this is a serious thing for Chase Elliott that we're going to have to see him come back from.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the whole Josh Berry thing. We're going to get into that soon. It's just, I don't know. I'll just save the whole Chase situation for later on. But the race, as you guys all mentioned, it was just William Byron domination. There was nothing stopping him. For whatever reason, there was nothing stopping him. I don't know how. For anyone that was saying that Kyle Larson was robbed, they are sadly mistaken, because that was a valid caution. That's just people trying to jump on the whole, NASCAR has it set up stuff. It's like, yeah, NASCAR's had some weird calls before, but that was a logical decision to call that caution. So whether you say, Larson deserved that win, he was robbed, or what, Byron had that race in the bag. He just got screwed over by a pit crew and other factors, dirty air, that it was so hard to pass. You can make all the excuses, but at the end of the day, the most dominant guy won, and that's what matters. But we saw Hendrick on top. You're seeing holes form in some of the other Chevy teams, like as Tyler mentioned with Kyle Busch, he had his poorest day with RCR so far, and sure, we're only 3 races in, but if that's a poor day for Kyle Busch in that 8 car, then we're going to see a lot out of him, and he's going to be a real championship contender, which a lot of people really didn't see coming this year. The worry about Ford right now is they've been on a slump. No one knows what's going on with Ford. Toyota's barely hanging on, so Chevrolet really brought something to the table this year that obviously no other team has. But just for the race overall, I mean, there's nothing much you can say other than that 24 car is looking dominant again. Maybe that will stick on for the rest of the year. But to carry on from the NASCAR talk, Formula One, its first race of the season in Bahrain. I didn't watch that one, so you guys can have fun with that one. I don't think Connor watched it, so I think that's just Fabian and Tyler that have to talk about that one.
Yeah, a bit of a slow start for Formula One this season. Not obviously the surprise of Aston Martin, what they could bring, and Fernando Alonso with his first podium of the season in the first race. But other than that, it was a bit of a snoozer. But I like to point out that last season, Red Bull had mechanical failures in his first race and they won the championship. Ferrari, in his first race of this season, had mechanical failures. So maybe, as fate might write it for Ferrari this season, might be champion. But it could just be me being very tiny, smooth brain. But who knows? For the Formula One race, I give it like a 7 out of 10. Obviously, Red Bull with its dominance, falling back from last season, being constructors and drivers champions. But either way, it was an okay race.
Yeah, I think. Oh,
Go ahead.
no, you're good.
All right. I just had a quick little note. All I was going to say was Max Verstappen won. Same thing. Next race. Move on. I'm done. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a lot of Max Verstappen win, repeat. The Red Bull, as Fidel mentioned, Red Bull ran away with it. There was no action there. I think the real story was Fernando Alonso, who over his radio every time he got a pass, I think he just kind of became not normal Fernando Alonso, just kind of excited, because I think literally his exact words as he passed Carlos Sainz for the podium was, "Yes, bye-bye." So I think, in my opinion, the Formula One race was slow. I would give it probably around a 6.5, kind of like Fidel did there in the 7. But story for me was Mercedes, again, not being as quick as they used to be. McLaren was non-existent, so that's unfortunate. But Williams has picked up a lot. Same thing with Aston Martin. They have made major gains this year, so I'm excited to see what they do.
Well, someone said last week on the podcast that Alonso was winning. I don't remember who it was. I clowned him for it a little bit. But yeah, probably Stotts. That'd be a thing Stotts would say.
True.
I was a doubter for Aston Martin. I didn't think they'd have what it takes, but maybe bringing in Alonso, and it's weird to say because the team did look a little stronger when Vettel came in, and then they just fell off the face of the earth. So I'm wondering if it's the same scenario. They're going to start off strong and then fall off, but it's really hard to tell. You look at the other teams, and obviously something that's been talked about for a couple of years has been the whole whoever wins the first race of the season does not win the championship curse. Max Verstappen won, Red Bull looks like they're in a league of their own. So unless something changes, if that curse sticks around, does that mean Sergio Perez is going to be champion? I mean, that'd be a nail in the coffin to their little bittersweet rivalry going on from last year. But all we really got out of Bahrain was seeing Aston Martin does have what it takes. We saw a strong performance from both Alonso and Stroll, especially Stroll being injured. Mercedes is trying to figure anything out that they can. And Ferrari is still as unreliable as they were last year. And even with new management, I don't think there's going to be anything coming from that. Nevertheless, the IndyCar race, some people would say that race left a sour taste in their mouth. So Fabian, I'll let you go ahead and talk about that one.
Honestly, probably one of the best IndyCar races I've seen in a long time.
Never speak again.
It was great. I think the racing was great. Obviously, a bit of a demo derby at the start with a red flag on lap one. Strategy was, I want to say too complex, but it was out there. I mean, people on primaries, people on alternates, seeing how long they had to save those tires and fuel. And then at the end with Roman Grosjean and Scott McLaughlin getting into each other and both going to the wall. It was exciting. Lots of drama, lots of racing. I think I'm going to give that race a solid 9 out of 10. I like to congratulate Marcus Ericsson just winning the race out of nowhere. Didn't even think he was even capable of winning that race, but it ended up proving me wrong.
Yeah, so I didn't really get to watch a lot of racing this weekend, but I got to the final laps of this race, and just a heartbreaker for Pato O'Ward. I'm a Pato O'Ward guy. I like him. It's not my favorite. My favorite driver is irrelevant pole day, but just a heartbreaker. Marcus Ericsson. So did we had to do right place, right time.
I'm not really too much into IndyCar. I mean, like I'll follow it, but I'm not like as far into it as I am NASCAR and Formula One. But I will say, one of the moments that got my attention as a NASCAR fan and being someone that is drawn to wrecks was the 30 car catching air off of the rear of somebody. I don't watch IndyCar, so I don't know who it was. I know that it was a pink 30 car.
A
But
pink 30 car?
was it?
I know Kirkwood in the 27
Kirkwood.
caught. Yeah,
was,
he
okay, so it
caught
was the
air,
27.
but then multiple other people caught air earlier in the race.
Yeah, and it was like it was one of those wrecks where it really took me off guard because it was kind of one of those Spa F1 situations. I don't remember what year it was, but I think it was Leclerc was in the Alfa Romeo and Alonso actually like kind of went over the top of the halo. So it was one of those things for me where it was like it was kind of startling at that moment because it was like, wow, like if the halo wasn't there, we're looking at a pretty bad wreck, but thankfully it was. It was kind of one of those things where I was like, man, it's crazy. Obviously, Pato O'Ward hitting the pit limiter when he got loose, that was extremely unfortunate. And I think a little bit of emotion shown from him there by hitting the steering wheel in frustration. But I hate it for him. But Marcus Ericsson again with a crazy win because it was Nashville where his front wing came off and he still won the race. So he's just kind of there at the end of these crazy races, and it's kind of just a thing for Marcus.
Yeah, well, you mentioned, you two both mentioned the Pato O'Ward situation where, it just fell apart last second. According to Pato and Hinchcliffe, that wasn't even pit limiter. Apparently it was something that's just luck of the draw, where a small explosion happens in the air duct, and it will take out all the oxygen going to the engine and shut it off for a minute.
Wow.
So that's basically what happened, and that when you think about it, that is just the worst way to lose a race. Because you're up there leading, you're doing everything right, and the reason you lose is because of a circumstance that no one can control. That's nothing Pato can do, there's nothing Arrow McLaren can do, there's nothing IndyCar as a whole can do. That just happens. And it's shitty that that's how the race gets determined. But I'm going to have to roast Fabian on this one.
Uh-oh.
The whole thing with that race that I didn't like was how bad it was in terms of wrecks, left and right. We got lap one, a massive pileup. Later on, a massive pileup. Cars flying multiple times that race. Then we had the Grosjean McLaughlin incident. Going over everything, it was a shit show. And IndyCar, it seems, for the past 3-4 years, seems to have that one race a season that ends up looking like that. And I hope that was the case with Sunday's race. It's
But
that
it
one
was
bad
a
race.
good shit show. A
No, it
bad
wasn't.
shit show will be
Maybe
Nashville
no,
2021.
no, 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 no,
That
no,
was a
no,
bad shit
no,
show.
no. If
Think
you're gonna look at a race that has multiple crashes in it and ends up having like 15 people left in it and like 12 of them on the lead lap, whatever it was, that I just don't like that. I don't like the idea of crashing a motorsport. That's why I'm more of an open wheel sports car kind of guy. That's why I don't like the NASCAR side of things when it comes to a bunch of crashing. Because NASCAR, it's promoted. That's what they want. In IndyCar, they don't want to promote that stuff. But it happens, but when it's stuff like that, it's just sad to see. And that's what I just didn't like about that race.
I want to say it was kind of like remind me of the 2020 Clash that Eric Jones was literally so torn up. Like there was 6 cars left, I think.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like it was getting one of those vibes, and I was like, okay,
It
like
may as well
everybody's
have gotten
losing.
there.
Pretty much.
And another thing that's not helping IndyCar in this case is the fact that there are so many rookies in this field, and a lot of them I don't think understand how to drive the car. We literally saw Benjamin Peterson drive full throttle into that lap 1 crash and send someone flying. And he's a rookie. I just don't think it's right with what it seems like everyone's getting rushed, and we saw so many rookies on the grid this year when some of them don't even have open wheel experience. Some of them have been just rushed through the ranks. And it really makes you wonder. There's like no hype around them. You hardly have heard their name besides like IndyCar announcing it that they were there. So maybe that's something they need to start looking at is, how they have their development programs work out and get people in the higher series, because there's no reason we need, 8 rookies or whatever it is. I know it's not that much, but we don't need a massive amount of rookies to have a good season.
Mm-mm.
And the series is still growing nevertheless, but you don't want to see stuff like that. And especially young careers, get tarnished because they're rushed into some, lower ended team. So I don't know. That's my rant on the IndyCar race. To move forward, while we have the opportunity, the Chase Elliott situation being out for what they said was 6 weeks. Josh Berry's in the car, filling in for the ovals. Jordan Taylor, IMSA driver, filling in for the COTA race. Obviously, we know that COTA is a track that Chase Elliott has won at. Obviously, the 9 team always has speed at the road courses. 9 team has speed in general. So, Fabian.
Yeah, it's just a situation where, you want to have your drivers to go have fun while they're not racing, but you also don't want to get hurt so that when they do come back or when the season gets going again, you have to sub them out for like a driver with no experience or that hasn't been in the car for like a couple of years. And that would just be a whole mess that you don't want to deal with, especially this early in the season. So I don't know. Like I can see why Joe Gibbs limits his drivers on doing dirt races and all that so they don't get
Boo.
hurt. Yeah, boo. But I kind of understand it now, seeing the Elliott situation. With Kyle Busch back in 2015, it was during, his job. It's his job to go race in NASCAR. And that's what Joe Gibbs hired him to do. And it sucked that he got injured in that race. But he didn't even think about getting hurt. He just thought about, let's just go racing. I think that was just most drivers just think of, let's go racing, let's go do this, let's do that. And then they don't think about most of the consequences. And that's what happened.
I don't blame him for snowboarding or trying to do stuff outside of his strength. You're just trying to have fun, live your life. I did find it weird that he did it like really close to a race. Like I don't know if it was Thursday or Friday that this happened, but that was kind of odd that he was snowboarding and doing stuff that close to a race. But stuff happens, and lucky for him, he doesn't have to worry about the top 30 in points thing when he comes back. So he just has to win a race, and he'll be in the playoffs, and he will win a race.
I think it's touchy for me because I do understand, drivers have to have something to relax and take some time to themselves, but I think, like Fidel said, if you're hired to do a race, if you're racing or you're doing like your job in his case, I think it's different. But I think at the same time that you want to have fun, you kind of have to find things that aren't as risk taking as snowboarding and stuff like that. Because at where he is one of the star drivers on $1 million organization that depends on him to win races, to contend for a championship. So I think, could he have been more smart? Yes. Do I blame him for doing that? No. He's got to do something to stay calm and stay fresh, but terrible timing, and in my opinion, kind of a risky move.
I mean, fair enough. As Connor mentioned, the whole playoff change and winning races. I'm gonna be that guy that is gonna say NASCAR's not going to grant him a waiver. I'm standing on that. I believe that's gonna be the case. A bunch of people are gonna get pissed off, and it's gonna be one of those rules that changes at the end of the year. Because the whole thing about that rule is you're not supposed to get a waiver unless it's due to age. Like, for example, a bunch of the truck drivers had to sit out the first few races because of age, and they're getting granted waivers. We saw that happen with Tyler Ankrum a couple of years ago. We see, Ross Chastain, he got granted a waiver because he's like, oh, I'm going to go run for points in this series now. Kyle Busch, obviously, 2015, he got granted a waiver because he got injured in the Xfinity race. But Chase Elliott having an issue that had nothing to do with NASCAR, has nothing to do with age, nothing to do with, oh, I don't have a ride for one race because of sponsorship, like a Todd Gilliland situation. He's in a weird spot where if NASCAR grants him a waiver, people are going to say, NASCAR's breaking its own rules. What the hell is this? And if he doesn't get granted, then people are going to lose their mind because he's literally the fan favorite driver. He's been voted for how many years on that? And
At least 6 years.
yeah, it would be dumb to grant him the waiver, but also it would be dumb not to. And NASCAR's in a weird spot no matter what they do on that.
Yeah.
So seeing what Josh Berry is going to do, just judging by what he's done, I don't think this car is something that matches his driving style. I feel like we're going to see him struggle even when he's learning it. But I just feel like it's going to be one of those things where we're going to see Josh Berry, maybe his highest finish is 17th. Jordan Taylor, I could see him doing something with the car at COTA. He's a GTE driver. He does this for a living on road course racing, stuff like that. I do think he could possibly get a top 10 at COTA. Do I think he fights for the win? Not so much. But to see what the team does in Chase Elliott's absence, it's going to be interesting. But last thing we talk about in our little bit of time we have, this weekend's race, I'm going to go over Stott's predictions. He said in quote, he picks Kyle Busch for the Xfinity race and Ross Chastain for Cup this weekend at Phoenix. Fabian, you're going both.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with the Xfinity pick for Kyle Busch, but for Cup, I'm gonna say Briscoe just has his turnaround for the season. So that's a bit of a rough start this season, and I think he gets it. I think he gets it done at Phoenix.
We're gonna make it 3 in a row with Kyle Busch for the Xfinity Series. Oh well. But for the Cup prediction, he's been fast here. He ran well in the championship race. He wasn't in the Final Four, but he ran well. I'm going to go with the 12 of Ryan Blaney.
I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball here in the Xfinity plans. Even though I'm a Kyle Busch fan and I think he has a chance, I think after the performance we saw from Chandler Smith, he's learned. Obviously, he's still a rookie, so a little bit of an expectation there. But at a track that he has experience at, again, just like Las Vegas, and with a team like Colleague to fall back on, I think he's going to do really well. And I also think for the Cup race, it's probably a race he has circled. Kevin Harvick's in his last season. He's the king of Phoenix. I think if this is a race for him to win this year, it's Phoenix.
Well, I'm tossed up because I'm like, there's part of me that wants to just jump on the whole Kyle Xfinity thing, and then I was also gonna possibly say Harvick for Cup. But you know what? I'll be different. There's something inside of me telling me we're gonna see a first-time winner this weekend. ladies and gentlemen, I present you Riley Herbst. I think it's about time Riley gets his first win. I'm biting my tongue saying that, but I do think he'll sneak something out. And whether that's on speed, luck, whatever the case, I'm betting on that. When it comes to Cup, I want to say Harvick, but I'm gonna go with Martin Truex.
Wow.
He's always had speed there. He's won there, and he seems to come close. So, I don't know. I do think this is one where he steals it at the end. But as far as topics, I think that wraps everything up now, doesn't it? And it seems like Connor's trying to chime in something. Are you trying to give me
No,
give me
no, I'm
problems?
not.
Are you sure
I
about
got
that?
nothing. No, I'm not. I was just. I didn't remember Martin Truex winning a race, but it popped in my head. At Phoenix.
Yeah. Okay.
If he doesn't want to give you trouble on the Herbst thing, I will.
Oh, okay.
Man,
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
Cole Custer has been outperforming him by a mile. I
Well-
think we're kind of seeing the exposement of Riley Herbst. That probably wasn't the right word, but Riley Herbst is kind of getting exposed by Cole Custer right now. I can't lie.
Well, yeah, I can agree with that, but we also know Cole Custer is a beast in the Xfinity cars, especially when he does his little one-off starts there. When he was in there originally, it was a stacked field. You know,
True.
he didn't win the championship as far as I'm aware. Yeah, he didn't win. But
Correct.
yeah, I don't know, it's one of those situations where yeah, we saw Herbst get better throughout last year. He started growing, he started getting better finishes, he started putting himself in contention for wins. But I think that first win's gonna come sooner or later, and I don't know. I do think that could be this weekend. It's just if it happens, it's a lucky guess. That's all I gotta say.
It's a weird one. For sure.
Notice something I've done all year.
I don't.
I'm trying to go with the ice cold takes. I'll make the base take, like I said. You know, I thought Busch was gonna sweep the weekend at Vegas. He got one of them, but when it comes to every prediction I made this season, I've made some bold takes. So I don't know. I think that's gonna be the situation going on. But nevertheless, that wraps up all our topics for this week. So, with that being said, thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you guys next Wednesday for the podcast, going over all the Phoenix stuff, predictions for the following race. Where is the following race?
I think it's at
Atlanta.
No, yeah.
Is that
It's
Atlanta?
Atlanta.
Oh,
Atlanta.
gross. Oh, I know the William Byron fan down there is going to be happy about that, seeing Austin.
Of course.
But with that being said, we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Thank you all for tuning in, and goodbye.
Deuces.